Horror Fanatic here, and we're going to talk about Odd Hours by Dean Koontz this month, the fourth installment in the Odd Thomas series. And I like it because it's kind of a return to form. It's more supernatural in base, I feel, than the last book was, Brother Odd, and I like the cast of characters better than I did in Brother Odd, though it is missing some of the charm of the first two novels. Odd Hours picks up about a couple weeks after the end of the last book, with Odd Thomas coming to a small coastal city in California and is working as like a chauffeur cook for like an elderly retired actor from like black and white silent movie era is what I gathered, who later went on to write a bunch of children's books and is very well off from all of that. And I like that character a lot. I like how detached he is, slightly crazy. But one day at the pier, he sees a pregnant woman, and he had made casual acquaintances with her before the start of the novel, and saves her from some roughnecks, some ne'er-do-wells. And it leads to a pretty great, like, cat and mouse scene of him hiding under the pier, dodging these guys. And it just snowballs from there to him, like, having to thwart a nuclear arms deal. It has a lot of, like, references to, like, James Bond and Spies in it, directly him referencing those characters, and how he is not one of them. But it plays much more like a spy novel than it does a supernatural thriller, which kind of what the first two were in my book. The supernatural elements are less. I don't think he sees a single ghost in this book outside of Frank Sinatra, and I was really let down by Frank Sinatra in this book. I had really high hopes at the end of Brother Odd with Elvis leaving and Frank Sinatra coming in, because Elvis was my most beloved character in the first three books. He was just the icing on the gosh darn cake. Frank Sinatra, not so much. He can't talk, neither could Elvis, but he's quieter. Like, he felt like there was less personality there. And the personality that was there was personality described so much by Odd Thomas, like, oh, this is how he was, rather than like in the other books where we would see the interaction between Elvis would tear up, Elvis would have reactions, and we could infer his character from his own actions rather than being just told, oh, it's such and such, and in such and such style he did this, rather than describe it himself. And nothing Frank Sinatra did really spoke Frank Sinatra to me, but neither did Elvis, though I'm not familiar with Elvis the man, just Elvis the myth. And the same here, I'm not familiar with Frank Sinatra so much as with Frank Sinatra the crooning legend. Though it is pretty great when he goes poltergeist and whoops some ass in the police station about halfway through the book. That is probably the high point for that character, and his conclusion with him leaving in such a way that it makes it seem like maybe he moved on. I hope he didn't, because I don't like that in just like 3 weeks in story he helped Frank Sinatra move on and get over his problems, when it took years of in-story in 3 books to do that for Elvis. And the original reason why seems shallow to me. Like, I liked Elvis's reasoning that he was afraid to confront his mother, and it gave him a very deep sense of character. And Frank Sinatra's reasoning was much flimsier in my book. Odd Thomas does again do the thing where he just goes on and on about Stormy, but that is just his stick. Like, it's been a year and a half in the book, so I can understand why he's still heartbroken and still thinks about her all the time, because they are soulmates and whatnot, but kind of over it after 4 books. Like, I understand she was wonderful and you loved her and you were destined to be together, but like, that's life, man. Shit don't work out. Then there's like some of the other characters in the book. There was, of course, the elderly man that he lived with. There's Anne Marie, is the pregnant woman that he encounters, who was also mystically touched, like otherworldly, and her character was just boring. Like, it was a lot to play like this like mystical element to her, where she like semi-psychic, like knew more, and was special like Odd, though she does absolutely nothing really, and just sort of talks in circles, and she felt like a tertiary character that just didn't need to be there. It was there merely as a reason for Odd to get involved in the events. Though, as she stays with Odd as a traveling companion, I hope in the future books more is revealed about her character in such a way that I actually come to like it. Boo sticks around a bit, though he is oddly absent for 2/3 of the novel. Like, there is large swaths of time when Boo would have been incredibly helpful for Odd to have around, and is just not there. And the whole nuclear arms deal feels like thwarting terrorists, feels incredibly contrived, and like just slapped together, and I liked it. Like, it works great for the novel. Like, it's good. But it doesn't feel like as well thought out and planned as some of the other novels had, and with their plot lines. I actually liked the bad guys in this book as well a lot. The villains, the antagonists, the ne'er-do-wells, as I referred to them earlier. But they have a lot of character. Their interactions with Odd Thomas are humorous and engaging, and feel like people interacting with Odd, and it's really well written. Like, all of like the scenes where he changes dialogue after being captured or questioned, or any number of things, they're all great, and it continues from like the very first time he starts having conversations with them all the way to the end. It's just some of the best written dialogue in the whole book. Now for like the dread location of this novel, Magic Beach, I believe is what it's called. It takes place in California, and like from day one in the book, well, it takes place over like a 24-hour period. So it's a very, like, one evening. It's just a very compressed time frame for a novel. And that's part of the reason it feels kind of like a spy thing to me. It's just one event after another. They have a before midnight deadline from when things kick off to thwart the bad guys' plans. And the whole time, the town is shrouded in a fog. And I like it a lot, but it never felt threatening. It was always described in such a way that made it feel ethereal and like magical. It never, the fog was oppressive or like hid dangers from Odd. And at times it did hide dangers, like coyotes that were silent and had hidden impacts, and it never explains what the fuck that's about. I like this does see some character growth from Odd, though. Odd uses a gun of his own volition. Like, he takes it knowing he's going to need to use it, and he doesn't like it. And I like that him having to use it to stop this innately changes him, and he's aware of it. It makes him feel like he's moving beyond who he was and becoming something new, and changing finally after 3 novels. And I really like this change up in his base structure. He still retains his aversion to firearms, but he uses them heavily in the final act of this book. And it feels out of place for a guy who always describes himself using what's at hand, but also, man, he's proves to be pretty good crack shot with those things. But other than the notable exception of Anna Marie, I really like all of the supporting cast in this book, and Frank Sinatra. I'll throw Frank Sinatra in with Anna Marie. He's not the best. But like Raphael the Archangel Dog, that was really cool. I liked that, but I love Golden Retrievers. And it is actually a really solidly written book. And it's entertaining and it's engaging. And I'd say it's my second favorite Odd Thomas book after the original, actually. My least favorite still being Brother Odd. But, yeah, that's all for Dean Koontz's Odd Hours. Next month on Horror Fanatics One-Man Book Club, I honestly don't know. All I know is it's going to be by Stephen King, as I have not reviewed one of his novels in like 7 months. So, see you then.